What exactly is involved in a golf ball fitting? That's what we're going to find out in this video, and we're going to do it in partnership with Titleist. So behind me is the Titleist Performance Centre here at Woburn. It's a brand new state-of-the-art fitting facility, and I'm going to go in and take a look around and then run through the process of a golf ball fitting with one of the Titleist ball experts, Tom Hiscock. We're going to look at three things in particular. Firstly, what's involved in that golf ball fitting? We're going to run through that process. Secondly, is my golf ball choice currently Titleist Pro V1x, is that right for my game? And thirdly, what is there about this process that you can take, that you can use to help yourself find the right golf ball for your game? Right, let's get started.
So what we're going to do, Neil, is first shot we're going to start with, 50-yard pitch.
Okay.
Club of choice?
54 degree.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, not necessarily my forte, this shot, but we'll see. We'll see in a second.
So what I'm going to do to begin with is put the golf balls down blind, so you're not going to know what they are.
Okay.
I'm going to get you to fire at the middle pin of the left-hand batch.
Okay, yep.
Always make sure the golf ball's nice and clean and dry.
Yep.
Any moisture is going to take spin away from us, and I think this is also something for consumers to take away as well. The golf course is always trying to take spin away from us.
Right, okay.
Whether it's the lie, whether it's a dirty club face, whether it's a wet golf ball. So I'm going to make sure every time I put the golf ball down, it's dry, it's clean, and I'm going to give you a half decent lie, just be friendly to you.
That's very kind of you, thank you.
You're welcome, no problem
Cheers.
at all.
Right, okay. So shall I just get cracking?
Yeah, so I'll just get you to hit a couple of shots, and just let me know if it's a good strike or not so good, or
Sure.
however you feel.
So Tom, 50-yard shot done. Do we then go on to hit a 100-yard shot, do we?
Yeah, so just thinking back to the 50-yard shot, we've looked at a couple of different golf balls.
Yeah.
One from the premium performance being Pro V1, velocity in the preferred performance range, and differences in spin and reaction.
Yeah.
We didn't go into Pro V1x or AVX, but we could.
So just for everyone watching this, what was interesting about that first part is hit Pro V1 first, and it had a lower flight and more spin than the velocity, which came second, actually struck the velocity a bit better, and that had a higher flight, but quite significantly less spin given how well I struck the ball. I actually hit it a fraction further as well. So you're gonna get a little bit more spin by hitting it a bit further.
Yeah.
But even so, I was almost 2,000 RPM less in terms of spin with that velocity than I was with the Pro V1. So it just shows, and actually I thought the velocity still felt good. It still felt nice and crisp through the ball.
Yeah.
But just looking at the data, I could see the difference there.
Yeah, and interestingly, if we go back to the carry distance and the total distance, there was 10 yards different between Pro V1 landing and where it finished.
Right.
And if we look at velocity, there are 12 yards different. So it's, although you struck that velocity really well, there's still a 2-yard deficit there.
Yeah. So you're giving yourself more margin for error with a premium ball than you are with something like velocity.
Absolutely.
So what's next then?
So now we're going to go into a full pitching wedge.
Okay.
And we're looking at some slightly different data. So we're going to be looking at spin, which is obviously really important in stopping the golf ball, but we're also looking at peak height, and we're looking at the descent angle, so how the golf ball's coming down into the green. Okay. So again, I'm going to do it blind, Neil. So
Fine.
I won't tell you what I'm putting down, and then we'll just work our way through the range based on how the data's looking. So this golf ball here will give us an idea as to where we need to go.
Right. Fine.
So we might not hit all the golf balls, but we'll be able to tell you which is going to be the...
Fine. You lead the way. I'll let you tell me.
Perfect. Spin number 8.6 with a wedge, pitching wedge, full pitching wedge, about 8.5 is a good number.
Okay.
Anything more than that's great. Average on the PGA Tour is going to be about 9.3, something like that. So if we could look to increase that slightly, increase this slightly, which will increase that, then we're going to be in a good place.
I know where you might be heading here, Tom.
Okay, so more height, spins in a better place. If you look at the the distance here. So you've actually carried it a little bit further, it's gone higher. So that will help from that point of view. Not that we're really focusing on distance at all with the wedge, obviously, focusing more on that control element, but from a spin point of view, in a good place. Again, this is 84 feet in height. Land angle is a little bit shallow, but we can take the weather into consideration, especially given the golf ball that you're hitting there is the higher flying golf ball of the three. Four that we offer in the premium.
Okay, yeah.
So this is actually the golf ball you normally play, isn't it?
It is, Pro V1x.
Yeah. Okay, Neil, right, so we're on to the 7-iron now.
7-iron.
And obviously we still consider this a scoring club. And going back to the original point, the whole fitting process starts at the green and works backwards. So we're focusing on these scoring clubs. So really, we're focusing on the clubs you want to get close to the hole.
So let's take a look at the sort of the best data, the best shot that I was able to hit with each of the different golf balls with the 7-iron.
Yes, yeah. Typically, we always say height and spin are your friend. And this is where a lot of the best players in the world are looking to hit it higher, create more spin. And it's there when they need it with these products. So here, Pro V1, 83.5 feet in height. Spin rate is in not too bad a place at 6.6.
Yep.
Landing angles are just a little bit shallow, but a couple of times we've commented today on the weather. It's downwind.
Yeah,
which is
it's quite windy as well.
It's really windy, yeah, and that's something to consider as well. But not too bad. Then
okay, so Pro V1, not too bad.
Not too bad at all.
But possibly coming in a little bit shallow.
Yeah,
right, fine.
Yeah, a little bit shallow into the green.
And could do with more spin, or no?
And I mean, from a spin point of view, you're in not too bad a place, really. We could always do with a little bit more with the 7-iron. Dependent on the loft of the club, and going back to what we were saying earlier, modern day clubs are a little bit stronger in loft, and therefore we can be a little bit more flexible with the spin number. But typically for a traditional 7-iron, the tour players are looking to achieve around about 7,000 revs of spin. So I'd say anywhere between 6.5 and 7 is a good place to be. So the numbers there, from a spin point of view, are pretty good. But like you said, a bit more height and a slightly steeper descent would be great. Okay,
so I've always played, well, not always, for the vast majority of the time, I've played Pro V1x.
Okay.
So how does Pro V1x compare to Pro V1?
Okay. So here we've got more height. Shallower dimples are going to give the golf ball a higher ball flight. So 100 feet, I mean, it's nearly 17
height,
feet.
And it was, as soon as I hit it, you could just see the ball flight was so much higher, couldn't you?
Absolutely.
You're going to notice that.
Yeah. Interestingly, here the spin is a little bit down. But because we've got a higher flight and a steeper descent angle, that's going to help us from a stoppability point of view. But we know, like for like, that Pro V1x will always spin more than Pro V1 on a like-for-like strike.
Yeah, which, as I say, I'm not a pro, so
and that's why we
there's
do
differences in contact there. So
yeah, absolutely, and that's why we do a lot of our testing through a robot, because obviously it's more consistent than us.
And then AVX.
AVX. And this was quite interesting, wasn't it?
Hit this one well.
Yeah.
Felt totally different.
Yeah.
As soon as I hit it, it's like, okay, yeah, I can really feel there's a difference in there in the contact. Height's pretty good though, isn't it? So it's offering plenty of kind of stopping power through the height and the landing angle, but just interesting to see how much that spin rate's come down.
Yeah. Yeah, the spin rate is dropped.
You could just tell there was something different about the way that it flew, couldn't you? And I guess it's that spin rate that was slightly different.
Yeah, possibly a little bit flatter. Is that how you kind of describe it?
Yeah, well, definitely, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like you say, lower in spin, which is exactly what AVX is designed to do. For the golf through spins the golf ball too much. But a little bit lower in flight than Pro V1x. But like you said, the delivery was pretty good, wasn't it? The strike was good.
Yeah.
And your landing angle actually wasn't too bad, but still we could still do with a little bit more height and a little bit of a steeper landing angle. But the spin is just, for us, that's just a bit too low.
Too low, fine.
For you.
For me.
Yeah.
But if I came with my 7-iron and hit the Pro V1 or the Pro V1x and I was suddenly spinning it at 8,000 RPM, then this would be a good way to go.
Could be a great option.
Right,
absolutely.
Fine.
Yeah.
And then can we take a look then at the left dash?
Yeah. And how would you say you hit this one in comparison?
I thought I hit it pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fairly similar.
Yeah, great. So height, again, not too bad at all, just below 98 feet, which is giving us a landing angle of 45 degrees. Again, it's downwind, so that's going to push it down a bit. 45 degrees or or more, with 50 being optimal is kind of where we want to be from a landing angle point of view. So you're not too far off there. And the spin isn't in too bad a place either.
Okay.
Less spin than Pro V1, which is what left dash is designed to do.
Yeah.
But again, you commented on the sound as well. It was a bit louder, wasn't it? A bit clickier, because it's a firmer golf ball.
Yeah. So looking then at the data across there with 7 iron, which is the golf ball, do you think? Okay.
I think for me, if we highlight Pro V1x at the top of the screen, it's giving you the height that you're after, or we're after as fitters. From a spin point of view, it's not too bad, but again, we can read into that a little bit from a delivery point of view.
Yeah, the strike, yeah.
Yeah, but on the screen there, not that we're chasing distance, but as it's gone higher and we're downwind, it's going to go a little bit further for you as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to turn. It's also my straightest shot.
It's the straightest shot, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, so far so good in the pitching wedge and the 7 iron. We're looking pretty good with Pro V1x.
Okay. Right, Tom. So we're now on to the longest iron in my bag, which for me is a 4 iron. Why do you do that? Why do you go from 7 iron up to the longest iron?
So we'd still consider it a scoring club, even though maybe there's a bit of a bonus if we get it close to the flag. We're still looking to hit the target. So when we're talking about longest iron, typically a 4 or 5 iron. If somebody pulls out a 2 iron, for us, that's still a bit more of a distance club.
Right, okay.
So it's an iron that they're still looking to get onto the green relatively close to the flag.
As far as I'm concerned, anywhere on the green is perfectly acceptable.
Better strike, this is the last one you just hit. So 75 feet in height, which has given us a steeper landing angle, and you're at 4.5.
More spin.
But interestingly, it's carried 8 yards further.
8 yards further,
because you've got it up there.
But the total distance is pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. It's narrowed that roll.
Yeah, and what you were saying about this being a scoring club still, you know, I've got to get it out of my head that a 4 iron is kind of, I'm trying to hit the ball a certain distance, but also trying to stop it within a certain
trying
distance.
to stop it, yeah, absolutely. The last thing we want is you hitting a longer iron into a target and it running off the back of the green.
Yeah.
And that's typically what you tend to get, obviously, with the lower spin golf balls. So Pro V1x being higher in spin is giving you a shorter rollout distance, which is obviously going to hopefully keep you on the target and get you even closer to the hole as well.
Yeah.
So we've done green to tee.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're at the tee box now and we've got the driver on the hand. So the most important thing from our point of view now, Neil, is making sure that the golf ball is doing what you want it to do from a flight point of view.
Okay.
There will be a distinct difference between the golf balls from a flight point of view down to the dimple pattern.
Okay.
And we're going to focus primarily on Pro V1x because that's the golf ball that's performed really well for you in each category. Yeah. So we'll start with this one. See how we go.
So is this category then, the off the tee, this is the least important part, is it, of the process?
For us it is, yeah. Again, we always tend to focus on the scoring clubs, the shorter shots.
Yeah.
The shots that essentially are going to help us shoot lower scores. When it comes to club head speed, we don't really focus on club head speed because this is the club people tend to think of when we talk about club head speed.
Yes.
But obviously in a round of golf, you know, we're going to shoot anywhere between 70 and 120, and we're only going to use the driver maybe 14 times.
Okay.
Some golfers might use it less.
But if I was a player, though, Tom, who was spinning the ball an awful lot, and off the tee my spin rate number was really costing me, would AVX be an option in that scenario, or would you still rather fit them lower down in the bag first?
So we'd still rather fit them in the lower end of the bag, primarily because off the tee, they're all low in spin.
Okay, fine.
So
actually the difference between them isn't so...
Yeah, it's going to be more the delivery of the club itself. So we tend to fit the golf ball to the wedges and the irons, and the driver to the golf ball.
Okay.
Nowadays, the drivers are adjustable, so you can tweak loft and you can tweak face angle and lie and those kind of things to match up what you want to see with the golf ball.
With the golf ball.
It's more about the flight. So it's more the dimple pattern which is responsible for the flight rather than the spin. Okay. There might be some very minute differences in spin, but it's not going to be significant enough to make a massive difference. Yeah. From a dispersion or a distance point. Okay. Yeah, so if we look at the height of the shot, and this is really quite interesting. So a couple of shots you hit earlier were peaking at the same height with your wedge and with your 7 iron. And this is what we want to see with most golfers. We want to see them achieving a high flight with all clubs.
Right, okay.
The analogy I use quite often, I actually use my brother's analogy, he uses this quite often, which is quite a good one. If you imagine you're stood at the bottom of Big Ben and you're looking at it, it looks very, very tall and it's right in front of your face. So that's like hitting your wedge. But if you're stood 300 yards from Big Ben, it looks a lot smaller.
Right, okay,
It's still the same size.
Okay, yeah.
So the driver is Big Ben from a long way away, still peaking at the same height as your wedge,
Yep.
which is great. Coming down at a really good land angle of 35 degrees, and your spin is in a really good place. So if we were to hit Pro V1, we'd expect to see that flight a little bit lower, but the spin should be very similar. The fact that you hit it relatively low with these longer clubs, X is definitely the right golf ball for you.
Yeah, I don't spin the ball, never spun the ball massively.
No. And the interesting thing with the driver is we don't want to see too little spin either. A lot of people think, well, lower spin, it's going to go further.
Right, yeah.
But actually, you're going to have less control as well.
Yeah.
So for us, you know, getting a spin number which is in a really good place optimally, then we're good there.
So can I hit one with Pro V1?
You can, yeah, absolutely. And this is a really interesting thing to do, because you're really seeing the difference or no difference really in terms of the spin, but more the flight aspect. Yeah. So these are really good to compare. So if you look at the spin, right?
Yeah.
This was Pro V1x, 2694, 2622, so it's virtually the same. In terms of carry, 275 with Pro V1, 277 with Pro V1x, flight 97.
Yeah,
97.
so
10 feet
difference in flight. Yeah.
Yeah. But
very similar swings, I would say, on those two.
You couldn't, in terms of the delivery, you couldn't really get closer, could you? They were really, really good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and you can just see a fairly subtle difference between the two golf balls, but I can see now why off the tee is less of an important factor.
Yeah, absolutely. What we've been through today is the ultimate experience from a ball fitting point of view. We've spent some time on the range here at Woburn. On TrackMan, we've started with a short greenside shot from 50 yards into a full pitching wedge, into a 7-iron, longest iron, into the driver. So it's like you say, quite detailed. There are other ways you can do this though. So it's very accessible to club golfers. We offer golf ball fitting through golf clubs around the country. So myself and my colleagues, our ball fitting team, are in touch with local pros. We can organise fitting events through TrackMan, appointment based, and we'll come and do this at your local club. We also do educational events, which is very different, but we'll set up our gazebo around a putting green or on a first tee or by an 18th green, and we'll conduct walk-up consultations with golfers for a few hours, and we'll go through the entire range and dispel the myths around golf ball selection and answer any questions that golfers might have, and we'll get golfers walking away with recommendations. So loads of different ways we can do it. On our website, we have the golf ball selector tool, and it's a series of questions which is very easy to follow on the website, and you'll go through the process, and at the end of the session, there will be a recommendation for you. There'll also be an alternative recommendation. And we will also be doing virtual golf ball fitting, and this is something we started in lockdown last year. So like a normal ball fitting at a golf club, you can sign up with myself or one of my colleagues online, and we'll have a Zoom conversation with you. Again, talk you through the range and go through a ball fitting conversation.
Okay, so that concludes my look at what's involved in a golf ball fitting. And I think the first thing to say is that I appreciate not everybody is going to get to come to a facility like this and use TrackMan and go through the whole process in the way that I did it. But hopefully Tom's given you some ideas and some inspiration into how you can get fitted for a golf ball without going into quite this level of detail. For me specifically, delighted that I was actually using the right ball. So Titleist Pro V1x was the right golf ball for me. But what really hit home during this process was how important it was for me to make that decision based on my scoring club. So particularly my wedges and my 7-iron. Because by finding the golf ball that clicked the most with my technique, offering me a little bit of a higher flight and more spin, is going to get me closer to the hole on those scoring shots, and ultimately probably going to lead to the better performances, lower scores. Now, when I tested all of the golf balls with the driver, they were all long. There were subtle differences in the way that they flew, but for me it would be the scoring clubs over the driver that would be more important, and I think that's why Titleist do it the way they do it. That's why they start sort of closer to the green and work their way back. Now that's it for now. Thanks for watching. If you have enjoyed the video, please do hit the like button. If you have any comments or any questions, leave them below. We'd love to hear what you have to say. But that's all for now. Thanks for watching.